we go. All right, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another forum. Today's forum, I'm Tamisha Darrow, Deputy Principal at West End Primary School. Today, I'm joined again with Shequita Parson, who is the Deputy Principal at Francis Patton School. We were hoping to have actually co-presenting with me today was Makiba Stowe as well as Andrea Isaac, but just like Deputy World happens, Andy has to be the acting principal today because her principal is out, so she has those responsibilities, so she couldn't join us, and Makiba's having technology issues on her end. So what we have decided to do is Makiba's still with us, even though she's not on live with us, and she'll be sending any questions that deputy principals have directly to via WhatsApp, and Creed will be asking me those questions. So today our focus is going to be on deputy principals, the journey as far as some of the challenges around being a primary school deputy, recognizing that one of the main things that we've been trying to accomplish is the idea of non-teaching deputies. Non-teaching deputies are a necessity in Bermuda public school system. Currently, these are professionals who have a regular course load as far as a classroom responsibilities, and they also have all of the administrative roles that a deputy principal would have, which really means that we have two job descriptions. Yes. We have the regular classroom teacher job description as well as the deputy requirements. And with not having additional prep time to do the administrative role, sometimes one job kind of supersedes another. It kind of depends on what school you're at as far as how much time you can devote to the admin part and also what time you can devote to the actual teaching responsibilities. And not all times is there a good balance. Yeah. There are days in which you have to be the deputy principal most of the day, and sometimes your teaching responsibilities will suffer. There's other times in which you have to adhere to all of the teaching responsibilities, and then your administrative responsibilities then fall away. So it's very difficult maintaining both of those jobs. I've been a deputy for 12 years, I think it's been 12 years. It's been quite a while. And I was at East End first, and now I'm at West End, and it hasn't gotten any easier in reference to the responsibilities, and it's really challenging. I don't know about you, Kita, but I feel torn sometimes with my loyalties to my children in order to do what they need me to do, but also my loyalties to the principal in supporting her around instructional leadership. And so we want to talk today about the challenges of that and some possible solutions that hopefully I can contribute in being an actual deputy principal and sitting around the table, hopefully as the vice president or recording secretary of Bermuda Union of Teachers. So could you talk a little bit about your experiences?
I was just going to also add that some deputies are also specialist teachers. So even if they are pulled, the services that they will provide around learning support or reading, these children end up losing out even more so than a classroom teacher, because sometimes it's easier to get a sub for a classroom teacher, but not a sub for someone that may be doing learning support or the reading piece. So, yeah, so as Tamisha said already, the role of a primary school deputy, it's very cumbersome, or it's challenging, and you go in a position thinking about your future. So I find that most people that become a deputy want to go higher up the rankings, whether it's a principal or someone that's working at the ministry. But however, in the current role, it's boxes we can't tick because we are teaching and trying to do administrative roles. And depending on your school, some people have the privilege of doing a lot of it, and some people can do most of it, but evaluated the same way.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also, you're evaluated twice as a classroom teacher and as a deputy. Yeah. So we have to find some solutions as to
it's almost unfair sometimes, right? That you know, how do you have one person having to do two jobs and you have to do both jobs really well? What I didn't say about Quita is the current BUT administrative rep for deputies. So she represents all of the deputies across the island, whether it be primary, middle, or high. I am her predecessor, actually, and I was the admin rep for deputies, and having served, I think, in that capacity for 2 years. I was a primary school rep first, and then became the administrative rep. What's some of the challenges that, or specific things that even middle or high might have, that, or people that are deputies have reached out to you to discuss?
In regards to middle and high, no real reach out,
Okay.
but in terms of conversations or just looking around the schools, not everyone's doing the same job. People have different rules and the expectations are different in the building as to who's dealing with what.
Right.
So I think that's a big challenge, because when you talk to your colleagues, well, I do this and I'm given opportunities to do certain things and others aren't. And again, the evaluation process is the same, but I'm probably not fulfilling some of the duties.
Right. So then there goes the equity, right? Yes. So you could have instances in which the deputy principal, let's say at my school, we've created a schedule so that I could do more admin things, for example. So I'm beginning to learn more about school leadership. I'm leading out on different things, professional development, whether it's the management of the building, scheduling. So, you know, that particular deputy in that instance is growing in those particular areas. And then you might have the deputy principal down the street who never gets to grow in those areas because her full responsibility is full-time in the classroom. And so if I was the one that had a lot of leadership exposure, and then Quita's the one that hasn't had that exposure, and we're both going now to apply to be principals, well, there's very little equity, because I'm going to be talking all about my experiences and what I've done and, you know, how I've grown in this area. And Quita's, you know, she's doing lesson plans, you know, for her 3 years, and hasn't had a chance to flex or grow her muscles when it comes to leadership. And so the inequity when it comes to that definitely needs to be addressed. I think that there is a place and space and definite need for non-teaching deputies in primary school. It's something that I've advocated for around the negotiating table for the last 3 years. The only traction that we have had is the recent provision for two deputies to become non-teaching. One is at Quita School and one is at West Pembroke. Quita hasn't really been able to take advantage of that to kind of give feedback on how that's going because she's seconded to SBG. But it'll be interesting to see those two people that are serving at those schools and in those roles, how much more they can actually fulfill and be an asset to the school, considering they don't have those responsibilities.
And that was a contentious question as well. How did they decide what schools received a non-teaching deputy? So even that process is something that we have to look at, and everyone needs to be on board. I know as deputies, something was submitted with and you could probably talk
I'll
more
speak
about
a little
that
bit
as
about
well.
that. So when it was, when we had heard that deputy principals could potentially become a reality in this school year for September going, I had taken it upon myself to garner from different deputy principals their feedback into a proposal that we can send to the ministry. So maybe about 5 or 6 deputies, Quita included, we had all served into a proposal which we submitted to the BUT on behalf of deputy principals that outlined what we thought should be the considerations for who should be selected. And when we talk about who, it's not who the people, it's who. If you only have to do a few at a time, what are the considerations? One was the need for a deputy principal that could provide instructional leadership. The other was considering the socioeconomic and emotional conditions of the school, of the students at that school. So if they were predominantly a higher tiered school when it came to their needs, then that school should have been considered. We also asked to look at MTSS data. We also asked to look at scheduling that the teachers already had, and would there have to be a lot of movement. So we had actually submitted a proposal via the BUT to the ministry in regard to that. Now, we never received any feedback, and that's one thing I talked about a few days ago with Josine, that I would definitely like to change with the BUT as the vice president, is the communication. If members are taking it upon themselves to communicate, it has to be two-way communication. Because with the powers, I have written in a proposal about my brother's keeper, and you can always watch that video, and it's also posted. But with my brother's keeper, that was a proposal that I had submitted to the BUT executive in regards to what we can do to alleviate some financial stresses of our powers. And I didn't receive any feedback, any communication. And then with this proposal, the same thing. So I think it's really important, and I'm sure I'm not the only only one that's ever submitted proposals. So it's not to point fingers. It's to say that one of the things that we can improve on as a union is better communication to our members and with our members to ensure that, you know, when suggestions are made, that, you know, things are followed up properly. So I just wanted to say that. So that proposal was submitted on behalf of the deputy principals. It was about 5 or 6 hours that put that together. I haven't received any feedback in reference to the decision making around why those two particular schools were selected. So Peter, did you have any questions from Akiva that maybe I could start answering?
I think you would have touched on it,
okay.
But let me just double check. If successful at becoming vice president, how would you go about improving, strengthening communication between BET and MUAB? So
and I hadn't even, I haven't seen the questions, haven't fielded the question.
And MUAB. So
right.
We talked about.
Yeah, we're talking about the union, yes. But I definitely think that missing piece of communication directly with MUAB is important. It's not because I don't think that the BET can represent us and have a clear voice, but I think at times it's really important that the ministry hears directly from each one of those stakeholder groups so they get a really good idea of our challenges. In serving on a negotiating team, we actually had a presentation that deputy principals came and made prior to the decision around who should be non-teaching. And we had probably it was quite a few, maybe about 15 deputies that did come and present at that time to the PSNT and also to the ministry, very clearly detailing and outlining the challenges that they have. They were talking about some of them getting sick because of their workload. Other deputies broke down in tears because of them being feeling like they were torn between their children and their responsibilities as a school leader. I thought it was a really heartfelt presentation in which primary school deputies very clearly articulated what were their challenges and how much of a burden maintaining both was on them. So that's something that I would like to maintain. There's that open dialogue with the ministry so that they can constantly be hearing back from us in regards to, you know, what are our challenges and what can we do creatively to move us towards becoming non-teaching.
Her other question was, maybe if given the opportunity to serve as vice president, how would you ensure non-teaching deputies become a reality?
You know what, colleagues, I really think it's going to be about research. I really think it's going to be about the research and data to substantiate it. For me, it's a no-brainer, and for my colleagues, it's a no-brainer. Maybe we have to start data collection around how much time we spend in the classroom versus how much administrative time we have to use. Maybe we can talk about the additional workload, how long we have to stay behind after school. Maybe getting data from these two teachers, these two deputy principals who are currently non-teaching, and seeing what is the knockoff effect and benefit for their school. I think we really have to have the data to support it, which I think is kind of unfortunate to some extent, because it should be a no-brainer if people were actually in the trenches with us and see what we do on a daily basis. I also think we need anecdotal data and conversations from both parents and children of children that are in our classrooms. I remember one of my students saying, she had made a comment that I read out at the negotiating team. She was like, can my teacher be the teacher or can my teacher be the deputy? Because my teacher's always having to do X, Y, and Z when it comes to the deputy stuff. And her mother had written in and pretty much said the same thing. I love her, but we need to decide what it is that her responsibilities are, because there were a lot of times, and it's not just the case for me, that if something happens at school or discipline or a parent or the principal is not there, the deputy principal has to leave their classroom in order to attend to whatever that issue is. It's just a reality. And so I am really interested in data collection and more research to substantiate why we should be moving to that. Also, Plan 2022 also factors into that. And I think it's in strategy 3 or key priority 3. It talks about re-professionalizing both teachers, deputies, and also principals. Well, how can we do that if we're constantly just doing the teaching job? Another thing, succession planning. If you expect that us in our early 40s and these brand new deputies that have come on board are going to one day become principals, you have to believe in succession planning so that you're giving people the opportunity to be able to flex their muscles and grow. So it's not just about somebody being there for a holding pattern, just to say that you have a deputy there, but are you really putting that person in places and spaces so that they can be the next principal? Because they pretty much should be the principal in waiting. Right? So we have to create those opportunities. And another thing I want to mention in reference to that is, how do we create opportunities for teachers who are non-scale post holders to become deputy principals? Because you have a lot of teachers, such as the reading teacher, the learning support teacher, 9 times out of 10, because they're not a content person, they cannot. Exactly. Or encore teachers. No, sorry, lights went off. You want to, maybe because we're not moving in the room. But I'll just keep on talking as Quita's doing this. But what I was going to, there we go. We just had to move in the room. That was pretty cool. Because they are encore teachers, because they don't have a content area that they teach, the opportunities to become scale post holders are slim to none. So you have a lot of teachers that are encore, the art teacher, the music teacher, the reading teacher, learning support. They really don't have that same pathway to leadership because they are not general classroom teachers. So that also has to be addressed so that people can know that no matter where you are, that is something that you can always aspire to if school leadership is something that they're interested in.
Exactly.
Anything else, Quita, that you think we might need to touch on?
I'm just trying to look through the questions to see if it's something that you haven't touched. Talked about criteria, what guiding factors should be used going forward, which I think you spoke about. She asked about the stance on criteria, the MOED used to select non-teaching.
I would love to speak to that, but I have not been privy to the information in regards to how the selection process was made. So I have no idea as to the criteria. I was hoping that as proposal submitters, we would have gotten some sort of information to let us know why, but I can't answer that. I can definitely find out if they have shared the criteria, but I'm not fully aware. I know one thing that I think was considered was MTSS data. And if MTSS data was a consideration, that's great because you want the information to substantiate it, but recognize that not all schools are going to have current and robust data because the deputy is teaching. So you might have a deputy that has no opportunity or little opportunity in the schedule to even go in and put in any MTSS data, right?
Those deputies are the MTSS.
Right,
coach.
Exactly. So it's like a vicious cycle, right?
So not only are the deputy, your MTSS coach as well.
Yeah.
And probably other.
Yeah. Well, when we made the presentation, I remember a deputy standing up. She was the MTSS coach. She was the teacher leader, I think, for social studies. She was the deputy principal. She was the P5 teacher. She was the PTA executive. She just had a whole list of things, and that's not unusual for deputy principals to carry so much of that burden, so much of that weight. And all we're asking, which I think is a very fair request, is that people have the chance to do the job and to do it well. Any final words, please, before we go?
Deputy principals is definitely a key area that we as the union have to focus on. Absolutely. Along with the paras and I'm not putting it in any order or the hierarchy priority, but in everything that we do, Plan 2022 should lead it from the union perspective, and then we would have to prioritize some things as to what we're going to be doing first or second, but not saying they're not equal in terms of the needs. So as the deputy rep or a rep, definitely be doing things differently this year. Last year was a bit rough. However, collecting data is key for us and getting notes, anecdotal notes around us as deputies to help move forward and getting us all non-teaching at the primary school level, and also assisting those in middle and senior any improvements that we need to have.
So thanks for listening, Ian. I had Quita with me today and Makiva on WhatsApp so that we can have any discussions around deputy principals for Bermuda Public School System. I just ask that within the next couple of days that you will consider when you do go to the polls or the voting station or the election spot for the Bermuda Union of Teachers, that you will consider putting a tick next to my name for Vice President and or recording secretary. It's really my goal to be someone that's going to bring a lot of substance to our organization, a lot of focus and resolve around building relationships between our organization and the union, and making sure that every decision that we make is one that is directly related to what's in the best interest of all of our members. So thanks for listening. You can watch any of the other YouTube videos that's been uploaded if you are another stakeholder group, and we hope to see you soon.
Bye.